Welcome on in, guys. Hello, and welcome to Alternate History Gaming with your humble and gracious player host, me, Bank60s. Thank you for being here tonight, guys. Had to do it. Had to get back in. Well, I was editing some content. I got to a point in that content where I started to explore some of the inner workings of the game with the economy and policy systems and everything. And I got to think, I was like, you know what? Let's take a look at this and let's see about what that means and let's see why this is this way. And it led me to what I think I want to focus on, but I really think that the thing that's missing for a lot of people in this game is understanding better about, again, the inner workings, the economic stuff, the trade, the infrastructure, important infrastructure points, the markets, exactly how policies work, what is a policy versus what is an act, so that we know both when we're playing here in Grand Tactician, the Civil War, and so that we know better when we jump over and begin playing the Grand Campaign in the Napoleonic Wars game that they have coming out soon. So let's go ahead and let's jump in to my campaign. And the one thing I think I thought I would start with, policy. Okay, policy is really important. There was a question that came up in one of the streams, I think it was a week ago or so. The question was about, what does this number mean? 11 out of 11. So the first thing to address about this, because I've learned about it, is to understand the difference in the game between policies and acts. Okay? Policies are all of the things that go along a red line. Now it shows here I have 11 of 11 policies that I can use at one time. I can have 11 out of 11 that are active. 11 out of 11 that are active. So the number on the right is the total upper limit of policies that you can have active. The number on the left is the number that you currently have active. So you can see right here, we've reached a critical point where we don't have much more room for policy making. Let's count up our 11 policies. Government funding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Right? So we're at our limit. And one thing I wanted to make sure that I did in the war effort going forward, and I'm glad that I stumbled upon this today and learned more about it, because I need for the North to begin industrializing heavily. I need to be able to earn more industrial subsidies. And I think that's something to point out with policies in particular, is that these red line policies, what they are for, basically, in game terms, is to increase the amount of subsidy that you can apply to a variety of different things, including politics, economy, agriculture, industry, military, and diplomacy. And the more subsidy that you can afford for each of those, the faster you're able to afford each of your projects that spend that kind of subsidy funding. All right? So that's your policies. So say I want to try to industrialize, right? In my game, I started with breadbasket policies being a big focus so that we could kind of massage our relationship with Europe more and compete with Southern cotton as a kind of a war starting policy. That has kind of outlived its usefulness for us at this point. The relationship with Europe has improved. British and European intervention is down from about 41% where it was, even as recently as 6 months ago in game, to now 16%. So I probably do not need these breadbasket policies so much anymore. And the beauty about the policy red line items is that you can right-click them and end the policy. The ones that you see here that you can't do that with are the items that are along the blue lines. Those are called acts. An act of Congress. Think of it like that, right? These, after you do them, will stay forever. It's written into law. It's an act of Congress, right? These policies are different. These can be moved back and forth. And that's where this limit comes in. And that's where, after you kind of open this up and you learn this and you start thinking about, okay, so I'm not going down a list of things that I'm able to just do all of as we go through the war. No, I have to sacrifice some stuff in order to get the policies in place that I need. Acts versus policies. Acts stay in effect once you have done them. Policies you can take back. That's important to know. That's something I honestly did not know before today. There you have that right there. There was another thing, of course, trade. And then another piece is a move I need to make myself here in game that will be huge in terms of boosting credit rating. And that is understanding the way that precious resources are being used in your economy. And I'm talking specifically about gold. Okay? Here in my game, I also did a policy when I started from an alternate history perspective that we built the Union Pacific Railroad and we did the Go West policy, right? Gold at $10 because there's 2.6 million of it coming through this trade node, right? There's 2.6 in stock, on stock, in stock. That means 2.6 million coming through here, and you can see the price is just dirt cheap for gold. So in my game right now, I have got an almost crisis level glut of gold. Now, one of the ways to deal with that is going to be a move that I hadn't been wanting to make, and that will be passing the income tax. What's important to understand is you're taxing your citizens and your consumers, right? And they are the ones who are using or consuming the gold. I'm going to stage in the game here at early 1863 where my credit rating is bad. I'm going to need more troops and war material in order to push a victory all the way. So you can see we're winning right now, but, you know, barely. So I need to figure out how to manage my economy so that I can support a much more robust war effort. And we'll kind of do a little bit of live learn together here while I take you through some of the stuff that I discovered, because I feel like we'll be able to discover even more. If you just want to look at some of the stuff and understand right away what you're looking at, what hover menus there are, and also what you can click on and mess with a little bit better, let's take a look at that. You can see you've got what each building looks like. I think is good to know. An ironworks, this is a level 1 ironworks. You can see because of the blue ribbon and the 1 dot, you can see it's owned by the Union and that it's a level 1 facility. Nearby, you have a telegraph station that has been upgraded to level 2. That wasn't by any doing of mine. There's also a town nearby here, Vandalia. Transport capacity of 1. Then you've got how blockaded it is. All right. This is if it's being raided by enemy cavalry or if it's being blockaded by enemy ships. Either one. If either of those things is happening, then the tax revenues, the transport capacity, and everything becomes negatively impacted. You can't move and buy and sell as many goods through there because it's being raided or blockaded. Goods are traveling along rivers, railroads. They're traveling along rivers here, canals. Pretty sure that's one. Yep. A canal, the Erie Canal right there. And that's kind of the one. I think there may be one down in Florida too. But they travel along that, like, that's good to keep in mind. And it makes common sense, right? You know, it's easy to remember that. It's easy to think about that because that's the way it works in real life. Goods, wherever they're produced, are going to travel along railroads, rivers, canals, and using sea movement as well. Okay, and when you look at this railroad interface right here, you can see what you're able to build, all right? You see all of these little green nodes along the track, okay? Those all represent something that's very important to the core of the economy of the game, and those are important infrastructure points. That is where goods are moving through and being traded, you know, bought and sold at any one time along the supply chain or through the economy at each one of those little green nodes. Let's zoom in on one of them. These important infrastructure points can come in a number of forms, and one of them that I honestly didn't know as much about is straight up just a town. Now you can see transport bottlenecks, okay? Now here's what I want to do. I was talking about important infrastructure points and the translation over to transport bottlenecks. Now you see there are not many transport bottlenecks up here. Let's see kind of why that is. There is a city. There's not an IIP, but a city. And then you have a bunch of cities lined up to move goods. Okay? Those seem to help take transport capacity up and reduce transport bottlenecks. It seems to me anyway that essentially this transport capacity being 0.5 like it is creating this red that you're kind of seeing around here. Here's one that's low. Binghamton, right? So there's slower traffic coming into Binghamton here. And you see that the red part covers kind of here over to here. Right here, I'm going to guess at Elmira, we're looking at some pretty good transport capacity. 7.5, pretty good. All the way down through here, where I'm going to guess, so you see red, okay? Where I'm going to guess this is emanating from is Belafonte. Boom, there it is, 0.3. There you can kind of see how that operates, okay? Why there are red spaces, where they are, and how that translates to which points have low transport capacity and which ones have high transport capacity. So I want to look again. Let's just do another test of an area that doesn't have much red across and through here, where there's a railroad and where there's a road. Let's do this. So we're going to look back at Lima, which is 11.3. Okay. Bucyrus, 11.3. Mansfield, 15.1. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 roads and 2 railroads. Makes sense. How about Kenton? 11.3. And so that translates to some really good high transport capacity for everything through this stretch of northern Ohio. And it has mostly to do with the railroad that is moving through the area here. So that kind of shows you exactly how all of that works. And when you have those transport bottlenecks and your goods can't move as fast, what that does eventually is it makes it so that all of these goods, these farming goods that I'm producing out here that need to be sent to my manufactories, can't get there as fast as they need to get there. And I'm not able, the business, the chain of business along the way from the farm to the manufactory to the consumer and everything is not making as much money as it could. There we go. This is something I'll just jump into because we've come across it right here. This is one way to help increase transport capacity. Markets. Increase transport capacity of local IIPs, increasing trade flows for goods and military supplies. So I think that's important to understand. Again, as you're looking at the inner workings economy of the game, important infrastructure points, boosting the transport capacity of all of them, markets being one thing that you can do, and then railroads being really the other big thing that you can do. And on top of that, infrastructure reform, railroad construction, and I believe logistics reform also helps. So transport capacity is vital to making sure that a whole lot of the products that are made in your agricultural and resource gathering industry areas are able to get to your factories, ironworks and manufactories, and then those things able to then get out to your citizens who are in population centers, to your supply depots that then go to your armies. So that's kind of how everything works across the economy. And the thing that's important to know is if the business from the mine to the ironworks to the factory to the depot, if all of those are doing well and making money and profitable, then you'll have a really good, stable economic flow, and it will help boost the wealth of each of those businesses, and it will help the economies and help jobs and help all of that. It's all very complex to try to manage in a detailed way, but you got to work on it by adding those markets like that, by adding the railroads like I've already done. This is different. This isn't an important infrastructure point. This is an actual city. This works differently. This is where population gets sucked in. This is where victory points and points toward victory, I would say, are earned when you take one. And you can see how important the city is to the war effort by how many of these coins there are, and also how desirable that city is for workers to move to and fill up the various businesses that there are around, if there are manufactories or what have you. We're back to trade nodes. I think it's important to just look at this real quick too. You see this dollar sign? That indicates a trade node. That's another thing I think that's important to understand. You see the transport capacity is massive, right? You see everything that's coming through here. Gold is coming through. These can be blockaded, but only in a special way. You can raid them using a fleet, and it would have to have a perk called Sea Raiders. And that would give you the ability to come out here and impact the transport capacity and the flow of goods through any one of those trade nodes or multiples of them. Of course, if you do that as the Union, you're probably going to start to negatively impact European intervention, British intervention in the long run. This, I think it's important to kind of get a better understanding of what we're looking at here too. What does in markets mean? Well, it basically means the same thing as afloat. Stuff that's out there, either in the market or going to your supply depots or what have you. Production is pretty self-explanatory. Demand, same. Depots, that's how much is in them, right? And this is artillery. Trade volume, how much they're being bought and sold. And you can see a tooltip by hovering over that right there like that. Here's another one that's important to understand too. I had not really known a ton about this, and it's available workforce. 86%, right? That's going to be dependent upon, in large degree, a lot on how much population there is in the cities, which kind of percolates out to the nearby towns and manufactories. And if your workforce availability is low, then you will see lower efficiency for that particular operation, whether that be a farm or otherwise. Ports are important because they're infrastructure points, all the same. Goods flow through them. They have a transport capacity. The buying and selling of goods produces a sales tax, and also the tariff cost is figured in there. I think this is the part of the game that confounds a lot of people. And even me, I've decided to go with a totally player-controlled economy. A lot of people just want to do the war part and not so much the economy part, and they let the AI manage that, and that's fine. But the extra added challenge of understanding exactly how the economy ticks, I think, is going to make a much more immersive and narrative driven, even to a certain degree, and a more fun playing experience, because you'll know, like, oh my God, my economy is crashing all of a sudden, or oh my God, my credit rating has crashed and I can't afford to build any more troops. And as a matter of fact, I would parlay that straight into the fact that in my game as it stands right now, my credit rating is already right there at a B plus, on its way down to below a B minus, which if you get there, you can't build anything more anymore. And then also through policy, like we had talked about before. That's pretty much going to do it for tonight's stream, guys. I'm Beg60s. This is Alternate History Gaming. If you liked the video, please give it that thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. Hype the videos and the streams. That always helps. Hit the comments after we publish the stream. That would help too. And if you would consider, you're already subscribed, you like this content, you like this stuff, this black powder, grand tactical, grand strategic stuff, if you have anything about the channel that you're keenly interested in, become a member. I'd appreciate it if you did. Appreciate you joining the stream tonight, guys. We'll see you on the next one.